Welcome to the Learner Center Collaborative Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Martin, and I'm looking forward to a really special episode today. I am here with a high school chemistry teacher, college professor, travel planner extraordinaire, dad, and best of all, my amazing husband. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So, Matt's on spring break, and I thought it'd be fun to have him on the podcast, share about his experiences, and help us better understand his experience as an educator and what it can tell us all about how we're designing high schools and the future of education. So, Matt, first question to start us off. Can you share a few of the experiences that have shaped you as the innovative educator that you are today?
Okay, sure. Well, I always knew I liked science from when I was in middle school, high school. I liked science, so um, I thought I would go try to be a science teacher. I don't think I was overly inspired by the science I did in high school, but it was a lot more inspiring in college, and it really sparked a love of astronomy, chemistry, physics, all different types of science. And then right out of college, I got a job in Hawaii teaching middle schoolers, just general science. Did that for a number of years. Went on to teach high school in a project-based environment in San Diego, California, high tech high. And I've also spent a few years teaching online. And most recently, a few college classes, adjunct college classes at night, all in chemistry.
So you've taught in a wide range of educational environments. And we met at Ilima in Hawaii
Hmm.
when you were teaching math at the time and science, and I was teaching ELA. And then we moved to San Diego, as you just mentioned. So you went from this very traditional sort of context in a middle school to a project-based learning high school.
Hmm.
Uh, I saw so many changes in you, like dramatic changes in not only you as a teacher, but just kind of your enjoyment in going to work and your environment.
Hmm.
So I have a lot of ideas about that, but I'm wondering if you can articulate what were the things that changed for you when you shifted and went into a new environment?
Okay, well, the environment that I was in middle school was very, very traditional. Lots of students, huge class sizes, um, just traditional in every way. And that was the norm for me. That's what I started out with, and that's what I did for the first 10 years or so. And then when I went to a project-based environment, um, the leadership is really what stood out to me to start. I felt very, very supported by my leaders, encouraged to take risks. Just supported in every way. I was respected for my ideas. I wasn't told no, I was told yes, give it a try. And that goes a long way. That really does go a long way with me.
I remember that. Just like you loved your leadership, you went from kind of whether your principal not even like walking in your classroom or coming in with a clipboard based on what the district office had to say to a leader who was excited for you and pushed you to try new things and was coming in and celebrating you in the classroom. And I just remember how impactful that was.
Yeah, it felt so good for me and it made me happy. And it was the same way for all my colleagues. My colleagues were also supported and happy. And so that made for a good, supportive, collegial environment, where we liked one another, respected one another. Everyone was kind of doing good work and pushing each other.
Yeah, that matters. And then your students, like your students were doing things that they were excited about. I remember you telling me that you have, years later, you have girls who are going into science in college
Hmm.
and they never dreamed of that, but they loved your chemistry class.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I have a lot of students that have gone on into sciences and keep in touch in a small way. And I think it's just it warms my heart to see that. Makes me very happy.
So going from a traditional textbook and teaching, and we've had a lot of conversations, right? Like in chemistry, there's a lot of foundational skills that kids need to learn, and you've had to figure out what to teach and how to create more time to do projects. But what are the things you see in your students that get you excited when you know like, oh, they're really going deep here. They're really learning something in a new way.
Oh, I love it when I see their curiosity come out when they decide to explore in a certain direction or want to check out something new. And sometimes it's purely chemistry and sometimes it isn't. And I want to encourage that every time I see that.
You recently you asked about a project. You were talking about all the things that you were, the ways to find out information, and you were talking about having students research concepts and being able to teach them, and what a shift that was from you as the teacher being able to tell that, give them all the information. Um, how does how does that turn out in your classroom, or like how are you starting to think differently about students doing research and leveraging tools to figure out information versus being able to read it from a textbook or you telling them?
Well, I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. It was a flop. It was a total
Okay.
flop. Having them try to research and learn on their own. They didn't really want to do it. I think they wanted some more. They want their instruction spoon-fed to some degree, and it's hard. You only really get them to explore when it's a concept they really want to know about. I was doing a traditional chemistry concept about molar mass, and that wasn't something that got them excited and wanted to dig deep. So no, they didn't really like that very much. I think that perhaps in a different scenario where they were going to design their own project or something like that, then they would really they could get into that.
That makes sense. And sometimes things flop. I love that you tried it.
Mhm.
So, what is your favorite project that you have done?
The ones that come to mind are the soap project. We started a soap company called the Wicked Soap Company, and this was in 2015 that it started, so it's on year 11 now. Um, we explored and found out how to make soap from scratch. We really didn't follow much of a recipe. We learned through iterations and seeing what worked and what didn't and comparing our results. Um, I don't know much about business, and I just jumped in with both feet to try to start a business. And we would go out in the community and sell our soap. Our soap got much, much better over time, and now we make very, very high quality soap. It's beautiful and the customers like it. We rarely get any kind of negative feedback. Students can be creative in the design and the colors and the smells and the labels, in the marketing and the setup, just in every way. There's so much authenticity to it that that's what makes it a big enduring project, the authenticity. And that's hard to find. I think that's something that in a project-based school, it's one of the pillars. It needs to be hands-on and students need to have choice and all these different things. And they always say authenticity, and authenticity is very, very hard to achieve. It's very hard to achieve. So that was one example of an authentic project. And I think the other one would be our coffee project, where we got green unroasted coffee beans from different countries around the world. And we would look at these countries and study these countries, what's going on socioeconomically and the trade of the coffee, who's benefiting, who isn't. Then we'd take the coffee and we would try roasting it using the engineering design process, shoot for different roast levels. Then we would grind it and we would try to prepare different espresso drinks and then give it out to consumers. In the hopes of someday selling it if it gets good enough. But we're meeting the audience in an authentic way again in that project. So the authenticity is the key part, and it's the hardest one to get.
Yeah, that matters. So, people always want to know, how do you balance, like, coffee project sounds awesome, making soap sounds awesome. How do you balance doing this project that takes more time with teaching them the skills that they need throughout the year in your class?
Well, the balance is kind of up to me because I'm supported at High Tech High in how to teach and what to teach. No one's over my shoulder saying I need to hit this many standards or anything like that. So it is kind of up to me. So I can find and strike that balance on my own. It's hard to know if it's the right balance because I have to have students be prepared enough for college science classes. So I have to give them enough foundational knowledge, and I also have to make them want to do science, so I have to make it fun and engaging. So yeah, it's hard to find the balance. And well, it's hard to know if I'm doing a good job finding the balance, but I think it's okay.
You're constantly iterating in like how to teach them the foundational skills versus what they can learn and apply in each of those projects.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah, and some of those chemistry concepts really are very difficult to intertwine and make hands-on. And so I teach that in a more traditional way. So there's a balance there. It's not every day it's hands-on exploration. Yeah, there's some traditional parts in there too.
And I think that that's important to highlight is that some people think when they go and visit, it's, projects and making soap and not really understanding that there's actually some direct instruction and teaching
Hmm.
and things that students need to learn to be able to apply and understand in the soap or the coffee and in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So the other part that you mentioned is that you're working with colleagues who you really enjoy working with, and they pushed you to do better, and they were doing good work. Um, and you've worked with a lot of different levels of teams, shall we say, some that were
Hmm.
more high functioning than others. So share a little bit, if you can, about some of the best teams that you've worked on and how that has impacted you as a teacher.
Well, the best teams I've worked on are made up of individuals who are um, capable and competent, with their subject matter, reliable, fun to be around, flexible. Yeah, I think that's it. That's what you need.
And
Willing to try new things, willing to compromise, because when you do collaborative work, it definitely takes compromise.
for sure. And a lot of teachers find it easier to sometimes just close their door and work on their own
Hmm.
because sometimes teams don't have all of that makeup and it becomes challenging.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So, would you rather work on a high functioning team or close the door and work by yourself?
I think a high functioning team. But I think that's the expectation. I think that if that wasn't the expectation, I might slip back into trying to do it on my own and be self-contained because then you don't have to compromise with anything, with schedule or with materials or, content. Yeah, there's in a lot of ways it's easier. But when you can find a project that is authentic and collaboratively authentic, then it really is a rich project then. We're always asked to collaborate, and sometimes it's a force fit, that collaboration. Actually, oftentimes it's a force fit. So sometimes you can find projects that are authentically balanced and incorporate different curriculums, and they're the good ones.
And then, but you also collaborate with a group of students. So you have the same core group of students that you share with teachers. So
Hmm.
you kind of can figure out their needs, not just academically, but social needs and work together to support those as well, right?
Hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we have smaller classes and the students all have the same teachers, like a cohort kind of thing. So we can collaborate as teachers regarding our students' needs. Mhm.
So, and I like what you said, I think makes a ton of sense. It is much easier to do it on your own, but it is often much more beneficial when you have a high performing group that can work together to push you to do better.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, the last thing I want to kind of dive into is many people might not know, but you love to travel
Hmm.
and love to plan travel, and we benefit from that as a family a ton. But you also plan trips for students. So we just recently got back from an awesome trip to Spain with your students that you planned. But what do you love about taking students on these trips?
I love seeing their eyes open to something new. Just to walk around and see like new systems, new ways to do things, little variations on what they see at home, whether it's like the traffic signs or way to phrase things. Um, Little things and big things. When they see something new and they like it, and they generally do, it just really inspires me. I want everyone to be able to experience what I have experienced and loved in traveling. So I love traveling so much that I want to have everybody do it.
One of the students on this recent trip said, "I've never felt so grown up. Being trusted to explore a new city with my friends and given the freedom and flexibility really opened his eyes and a lot of the students' eyes." Like, what does it take for you to be able to trust students, to bring them to different countries and trust them and give them kind of that opportunity to explore?
I think that they're oftentimes willing to step up because they're being given that trust, and they're not always given that trust. So I think just by the nature of trusting them, they generally step up and meet that expectation generally.
I think that's so true. And it was so fun to see them make new friends
Mhm.
and step out of their own comfort zones and be able to see new things. I heard students on the way home say, "Who wants to travel abroad with me next time? Who wants to
Mhm.
study in college?" Right? And the ideas that you spark by bringing them new places and showing them the world beyond their little space is really, really powerful.
Yeah, they love it. It's really impactful. I see so often that students just they catch that travel bug and they want to do it more and more, and that's really cool to see.
I love that. So, how has your traveling trips and all that you've done with students over the years, how do you bring that back to the classroom? Like the lessons you learn when you travel with them, how does that impact you as an educator in the classroom?
Well, I think it makes me understand what they want. They want something new. They want something exciting and something different. I can't always give it to them in the classroom, but it shows me that, I have to pique their interests in order to get them interested and want to learn on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that you do that in many ways, and I love that you're always trying to think about new ways to do that. Um, Many people are leaving teaching, and this is, been a phenomenon for years, but more and more we see teachers leaving the profession and less teachers going into the profession. I'm wondering from your many years in the classroom in different contexts, what would you say that teachers need to stay in the classroom, stay in the profession, and not just exist, but to really thrive as educators and ensure that students do the same?
I think they need good leadership. I think they need to feel valued by their leaders and supported and trusted, um, and accommodated. I think they need to have somebody that they are comfortable working with, um, and feel good with. Right now, I'm in a really good situation. I like my supervisor a lot. They need resources. They need resources to explore those ideas that they have, um, and they need to be able to take risks and be supported in that. So, if you have an idea for a project, you've got to be able to get all the materials for that project. And if that is like a big stumbling block, you might be all excited for a week, and then you got to turn in purchase orders and go through your department chairperson, and maybe in a few months you can get those. Oftentimes it's passed. Either the content material is passed or your excitement is passed. So yeah, you need support. It's support to take risks and support materially.
Awesome. And I hope the leaders listening understand that and I think what you said, support and trust, right? Like you're working hard and you want to know that your effort and work is valued and that
Yeah.
um sometimes people say that they value it, but it's different to really feel it. And I know that you
Hmm.
have an amazing leader right now that has done that, which is really cool. It makes a huge difference.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I'm going to do rapid fire.
Oh no.
So you got this.
Okay.
All right, there's only a few questions. What is one thing we should stop doing in education?
Testing.
Okay.
That wasn't
What
that
is,
rapid, was it?
I'll take it. I love it. What's one thing we should start doing?
Hmm. Funding projects.
I love it. What should we keep doing?
Hmm. Encouraging and trusting creativity.
Great. What's one thing that you are learning right now?
Hmm. That I'm nervous being interviewed by my wife.
That works, but I was gonna
Yeah.
say, how are you not talking about your big project right now?
Oh, what's my big project right now? Like the possible trip next year?
No, our kitchen that you've been.
Oh, yeah, making gin. Yeah, I've been learning to distill recently. Yeah, yeah.
That's a big project. What's one thing that people don't know about you?
Oh, that even though I'm pretty outgoing as a teacher, I'm really kind of introverted otherwise.
That people might not know that. Do you have a favorite quote or saying?
Hmm. I have a favorite quote, but I don't think I can quote it. I would need to look it up.
Okay,
Yeah. Favorite quote or saying? No,
that's
I
a
don't
hard
know.
one.
Yeah, I don't have it ready. I don't have it ready to go.
Okay, we can come back to it. What's one thing you're grateful for?
Hmm. My current leadership. That's
Awesome.
cool.
What is your hope for the future of education?
Hmm. That it's able to adapt with the times. I feel like we have such a big behemoth of uh, normal schools. And as they lose funding, as students try to find new ways, those big schools lose funding. And I'm just worried about it all falling apart. I wonder how it's all going to survive.
You and me both.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking your spring break out to talk to me. I know it wasn't top of your priority list to do a podcast today, but I think your perspective is so important. As a teacher in the classroom doing this work, we're thinking about how we redesign schools and what matters, and we can't do this without amazing teachers. So, thanks, babe.
Thank you.